Well, g'day guys, it's Jeff Adam here, and welcome to our New Zealand virtual vacation, brought to you by our travel advisor friends from North America. They've come together, brought you to this stage to discover the wonder of Down Under in fabulous New Zealand. Now, in setting out on creating a vacation to New Zealand, what you first need, of course, is a little kit. You need a little New Zealand travel kit. Now, contacting your travel advisor after this presentation, we'll be sending out kits to them. So by you attending today, we can work out how many kits they need, and we'll be sending out kits to them. They'll be requesting these travel planners. They'll be requesting some maps, and you're going to learn today how to speak like a Kiwi. I'm going to give you a quick lesson, because the Kiwis, they've got a funny, quirky little accent going on down there, and I'll be able to take you through that and give you some insight. The nature of the journey, of course, is brought to you by travel advisors, and it's important that you understand the relationship that they play in pulling this together. The reason why we embarked on pulling this together is because soon after the pandemic was announced and clients were trapped across the country or around the world seeking safe passage home, it was the travel advisors that stepped up and really gave great service and really looked after their clients, looked after you. And that's exactly what they do. They seek to make sure they bring a true peace of mind. Here's some of the top 10 reasons that I like to kind of promote why you should work with travel agents. Travel advisors, they give peace of mind, they give great customer service, they maximize your budget to make sure that your dollar is well spent, and at the same time they give you better choices. They seek out products that will deliver beyond expectation. They save time, and they give personalized service, insight, and expertise. They assist with your documents, and they are your customer advocate. So in times like now, when you're trying to rearrange your flights and rearrange everything, they are there right now working for you to make sure everything comes together. And because of their involvement in the industry, they've got great contacts. They are truly a great mate, as we like to say. We like to say in the Antipodes, we like to say a great mate. And a mate is a person who makes Aotearoa travel easy. And what is Aotearoa? Aotearoa means the land of the long white cloud. It is Maori for New Zealand. So let's go to New Zealand. Well, first of all, we're going to learn how to speak New Zealand, don't we? I how to speak Kiwi, as they say. And the Kiwis have got a funny accent. You know, they've got to. So you need to kind of pick up on some of the key terms. Kia ora, for example, you'll hear that everywhere you go. Kia ora, kia ora, kia ora. It's like going to Australia and hearing somebody say, "G'day, g'day, mate." So kia ora is hello. And then, if you like this gentleman here, he's all dressed up and geared to go hiking, isn't he? Well, that's exactly what tramping bro is. So if we were going to ask him a question, "Hey, you going tramping, bro?" What we're saying is there's two words there. Tramping is hiking, and bro means friend. So you're going hiking, my friend? And then, because he's kind of carrying on like a bit of a buffoon there, look at his stance, you know, he might be kind of taking the piss. Is he taking the piss? What's that mean, taking the piss? Well, that means, are you joking? Mate, are you joking? What's going on? What are you doing? And then the question might come up, well, you're going to go tramping. So when you go tramping or hiking, you need to take food with you. Now, there's food you eat on a hike. It's called scroggin. What doesn't sound very appetizing, but it is. Let me tell you, scroggin is your trail mix. So here in North America, when we go hiking, we get trail mix, which is nuts and dry fruit and dark chocolate. Yeah, it's pretty yummy. So you need a bag of scroggin there to keep your strength up. And where might you buy the scroggin? Well, you could always go to the dairy. What? Go to a milk shed? What's a dairy all about? Well, that's what they call their corner stores. So you'd go to the dairy. That's where a dairy would be a corner store where you might buy a newspaper, you might get some milk, and you might get some trail mix or scroggin. So yeah, that's the idea. And when you pick it up, you'd say thank you, and you might go, "Sweet as." Sweet as, bro. That's a kind of bro word again. Sweet as. What does sweet as mean? Well, that means awesome. That means no problems. That means no thanks. It can be. It's a very general one. Sweet as. It's basically saying it's done. It's good. No problems. And then, of course, if you're going to go on this little tramping expedition, don't take the tiki tour. What does that mean? Well, a tiki tour is a reference to going the long way. So I mean, you might hop. Perhaps like your cab ride, perhaps is taken a little longer than normal, and you might say, yeah, the driver took us on a tiki tour. So it just like it's kind of you've gone and seen all the highlights, or you probably could have gone a more direct route. So does that help you at all? Well, I don't know about that. It's not that important. I can tell you right now, when you get down there, the Kiwis are so warm and welcoming. They're so damn friendly, and honestly, the New Zealand itself. The scenic beauty of New Zealand is just everywhere. You need a 360-degree head to take it all in. That's Lupin there, and that's Lake Tekapo. And that's where the Church of the Good Shepherd is. That's the Mount Cook National Park. I mean, amazing scenic beauty. Incredible mountain vistas, like in the Fiordland National Park. I mean, just amazing views. And then you've got the pristine coastlines. This one here is taking us up through the Bay of Islands. Rich, fertile farmlands. I mean, volcanic, rich, black soil. I mean, fertile farmland. This is a Canterbury Plain you're seeing here. And they produce world-class produce. Their dairy and their sheep it's just amazing. In fact, their dairy products are sensational. The cheeses and, oh my goodness me, makes me salivate just thinking about it. And let's not forget these islands are surrounded by some of the purest ocean in the world, and they've got wonderful seafood selections that will just, and then to map that seafood off, to really top it off, you need a good glass of vino. Award-winning wines is exactly what you'll find down in New Zealand. They have got a fabulous array of great wines. In fact, they own, really, when you think of Sauvignon Blanc, they truly own the Sauvignon Blanc. Amazing. Now, here's a fact for you. Did you realise that New Zealand is actually the youngest country in the world? Now, what does that mean, the youngest country in the world? Well, what does it mean? Think about this. Think about parts of Europe. Think about the Middle East. Think about the ongoing confrontations and conflict, over religious wars and just borders and history. And you think about that it becomes a part of your DNA. New Zealand doesn't have that. In fact, the first settlers into New Zealand, the ones that originally find this amazing land, were the Maori. The Maoris arrived around 1500 BC to 1250 AD. And they were warring people, but they found their home and they settled in the North and South Islands of New Zealand. And then a little later on, the English and Scottish arrived around the 1700s. And, well, there was a little bit of argy-bargy, a little bit of conflict, a little bit of rub. And, they sat down. They decided this wasn't going anywhere. So they sat down and signed a treaty called the Waitangi Treaty. And that treaty is a treaty of coexistence. So in schools today, kids are taught Maori law and legend, as well as English law and legend, and they have a more unified society. And this class here, as you can see, wearing their little school uniforms, but look at their little bare feet. Kids in New Zealand can go to school barefoot because it's a Maori tradition. And yes, at a very, very young age, you will be learning the haka. You'll be learning the haka is a kumute ka, it's a dance that Maori men do, and it's quite formidable. And you'll feel the passion that kind of seeping in. The people here, they're so drawn to their culture. They're so respectful. I mean, they're so respectful of their elders. It's amazing what it's done for the society. I mean, I would say one of the best exports that New Zealand offers is its people. I can tell you right now, they're educated, they're well-travelled, and they're respectful, and they are lovely people. Honestly, the Kiwis are great mates. And where that really shines is on the sporting field, because that's when you've got to work together as a team. And when you think about team sports, think about rugby. New Zealand, a population of about 4.8 million people, and they produce probably the finest rugby team in the world, pound for pound, without doubt, are the All Blacks. And there's a game that requires you to work together. Another team sport, which is a good measure of teammanship, is sailing. You think about sailing, and when you think about sailing, the biggest, most prestigious race is the America's Cup. The America's Cup, guess where it is? It's in New Zealand. A bunch of Kiwis who are pretty good at sailing have won it, and they're not going to let it go. They're that good. So they just know how to get it done. They just work together really, really well. And a company that represents their country well and works together as an amazing team is that of Air New Zealand, an award-winning airline that have got true passion for service and a true passion for country. And they know that every flight that leaves is representing their country, and they treat it like that. So when you board that plane, they haven't forgotten that flying is supposed to be fun. So when you get on board, you'll find that the service is second to none. They'll pour a little cocktail and have time to have a chat. They'll, nothing like being served at 40,000 feet in the air, a lovely dinner. And you'll find, whether it's in economy class, in premium economy, or business class, you'll find they offer impeccable service. Always a friendly, warm and welcoming smile. And it's your first chance to get to learn how to speak Kiwi. Yeah, it's not that hard, like I said, just a few words here or there. Don't forget kia ora everywhere you go. Kia ora. Kia ora, bro. And then, of course, on that flight, you'll have time to sit back, watch a movie or two. They've got games. They've got lots of ways to keep you entertained. And for those that want to have a nap, if you're in business class where you can stretch out and lie flat and have a good old snooze, but even in economy class, they've created what they call cuddle class. So what actually happens here? For a little extra, you get 3 seats in a row, and they actually pop out the seats, and it pops out, and it makes it a little wider. So they make this big bench. So you can stretch out with your partner, you can watch a movie together, have a little cuddle. Yeah, nice, eh? So there you are, having 2 meals, 2 movies, a nap, and you, my friend, are arriving in New Zealand with our friends at Air New Zealand. What a great start to this presentation. I'm going to tell you, New Zealand is one of those places that is, it provides a life back promise. What does that mean? Well, think about your life right now. You want it back? Yeah, well, I do. And let me tell you, this is the place to go, because New Zealand is like the world. It's the way the world used to be. It's just beautiful. I mentioned a population of 4.8 million people. Well, about 1.5 of them live up in Auckland. Now, it's not the capital. It's actually the largest city, though, and it's got the largest population of Polynesians in the world. The capital is actually, in fact, Wellington, which is the southern part of the North Island, Wellington, about 350,000 people. And then just under 200,000 people heading down to Christchurch on the South Island. This is a fabulous little city. We'll talk more about that in a moment. I just want to also point out, just to get your bearings, where Queenstown is, because everybody wants to go to Queenstown. Queenstown is quite an amazing city. It's the adventure capital of New Zealand, and you'll soon learn why. Now, I've got to say, travelling New Zealand is probably the first thing we need to think about. I mean, it depends on how much time you've got. And when you're sitting down with your travel advisor, that's what they're going to need to know, because it's while there's 2 islands, and Stewart Island down the bottom there, you've got North Island, South Island, Stewart Island. It is a destination which does serve us well as a self-drive. And if you like to drive, you'll find it's absolute scenic splendor. But I've got to tell you, you need a 360-degree head. So you want to be stopping and getting out of that vehicle to have a good look around, like this couple is. And then when you're on the road, all you got to remember is left is right and right is wrong. Now, to help you with the navigation and to help you get along there, your travel advisor can put together one of these co-pilot kits. They'll come, and at the very time you start putting your itinerary together, that's when you've got to ask for it. You've got to ask your travel advisor, otherwise we can't do it. But if you can ask at the start, we'll put together a whole series of maps. There'll be a booklet there which actually gives you day-by-day guidance as to where you've got to be and what you've got to do. It just takes the worry out of things. Now, of course, if you really want to have a worry-free vacation, then go with local guides. I mean, there's some great guides that do small group touring, everything from day tours up to longer extended tours, and you can go with a small group. Go with a small group of friends. If you're thinking right now, looking around, thinking, "Gee, I wouldn't mind traveling with my family. I kind of like them." Well, in that case, maybe we should put a tour together. Now, depending on the size of your group, we can do larger vehicles, of course, and some of these larger vehicles can even have, we've got nice little additions on board, a little bar on board, so you can pick up some ice cream. You know what the favourite New Zealand ice cream is? You know what it is? It's a honeycomb with honey through. And it's a really yummy ice cream, and I've got to say, and they've also, so when you're travelling along, you can stop and get food, you can leave it in here. I mean, it's great. The real key to these trips, of course, is the quality of the local, and it's all about local. That's all we use. We use local guides, local Kiwis who really have got a passion and understanding of what your needs are. They're like your personal valet. They're thinking always 2 steps ahead of you. And I'm going to say too, hats off to their local transport. I mean, hop on an intercity coach. The guides are great. I mean, sit up behind him, have a good old chat. As long as you can ask good questions, they've got some good answers, and they'll make sure you're well looked after. It's just a trait of being a good Kiwi. They got to look after. They just love looking after people. Another way to get around the country too is by train. There's some fabulous rail journeys. I've got one I'm going to talk about a little later on, but this is a great way to see the country too. In fact, a good vacation experience might incorporate a number of different touring experiences, and that way it doesn't get overbearing. You know what I mean? It's like flying between, flying all the time is airports. Driving all the time is road. But to mix it up a little bit, a little train here or there, a little somebody looking after you, that's what it's all about. Now, just north of Auckland is an area called Northland. And so we're going to look at Auckland and Northland right now. Let's have a look. Auckland itself, they refer to it as the city of sails because, like I mentioned, they're big on their sailing, and 1 in 4 people in this city here are big on sailing. So that big, tall spire, you see, that's actually the Sky Tower. And the Sky Tower is a very prominent feature. And when you are in Auckland, it's important to remember it because no matter where you are in the city, it'll help you get your bearings. Now, just touching on a couple of areas, you've got the viaduct, which is the waterfront area, where all the actual boats are, all the sailing vessels and all are there. And there's also some great restaurants. You've got the Brito Mart, which is a trendy little area, up and coming, nice restaurants, some good accommodation down there too. Let's have a quick look at the Sky Tower, though. This wonderful Sky Tower has got lots of adventurous things you can do up there. You can go and walk outside, you can bungee jump off it, but I far rather do something more civilised and sit here with Mr. Peter Gordon, a fabulous chef at the Sugar Club with incredible views. What a great place to toast the start of our escape. We're then going to head and settle in to the hotel itself, the Sky City Grand Hotel. Grand in name and grand in nature. It's got this fabulous view, and you'll be well served to staying here. The service is exemplary. From here, you can step outside and you basically wander down to Queen Street, which takes you en route to the ferry building. Now, Queen Street, you'll find little alfresco restaurants and coffee shops, and it'll, like I said, the road will kind of teeter up right into the back of this ferry terminal building, which puts you on the waterfront. And to the left of that, you've got the Viaduct Marina. And the marina is a great spot. During the day, al fresco dining, boats are bobbing. It's just a delightful spot. At night, it takes on another whole surge of ambience, and there's a lot of excitement down here. People are coming back from their days out on the yachts, and they'll come back and celebrate. And one great restaurant I'd like to mention is the Soul Bar and Bistro. It's one of my favourites, and a lot of our groups, our travel, a good feedback from our travel advisors here that it actually is one of the better restaurants in terms of its location, the aspect, and the food. The cuisine is very good. Now, the Brito Mart precinct has got a lovely collective of restaurants and accommodations. One of my favourite things in here is a La Cigale French market. Very nice, not even nice. You can wander through here, steaming hot cup of coffee, picking up some pastries and chatting to the local Kiwis, not in French accent, of course, and of course, the chance to savour the cheeses and the fresh fruit. And I love a good market. A market's all about that lovely passion of food. And I mean, food is the essence of life, and to wander through a good market, it's fun. Now, stepping away from there and going out, we also like to get you to see some of the local attractions as well as some of the places the locals like to go. The Auckland Museum, of course, is a local attraction. We're going to check on that. But then we're going to take you to where the locals like to go and eat, where they like to go and shop. Parnell, very trendy little area. Also, Ponsonby. Ponsonby is very nice too. Ponsonby Road have some great restaurants. But first of all, on the Domain, which is this lovely park, you've got the Auckland Museum. And inside, they've got this unique collection of Maori art and artefacts, and this will be your first opportunity to kind of soak in some of this rich Polynesian history and heritage. You'll also be able to meander through the gardens, and as you can see from the air, we're going to head left. So we're going from left to right, and on the right-hand side, we're stepping into that area on the right of the picture. That's Parnell. And Parnell's got this lovely cafe scene, and it's where all the little village of shops and boutiques, and it's a chance to mix and mingle with the locals, and drop into Rosie's Cafe. That's a great meeting spot too. Now, Ponsonby Central, going on the other side of Auckland, you'll find that Ponsonby Central is a market, and you can wander through the markets. And what I delight about here is there's also a whole series of little restaurants side by side, and you can do a fabulous dining experience where you come to Ponsonby Central and you have like an appetizer, a little tasting plate at each one. It's a great way to kind of get a real feel for what Auckland's food scene's all about, and it's pretty good. Now, getting out on the water is an important part of being here in Auckland, and going across to Waiheke Island. Waiheke Island, you can do that via sailing. You can get out in the harbour and do some sailing, or you can hop on a ferry. The ferry will take you across to Waiheke Island, and Waiheke is well known for its vineyards. A chance to savour some mighty fine wines. For those that wish to stay out here, if you are interested, they've got some great accommodations as well. But just to visit some of these restaurants and wineries, and it is a great outing, a great day out. Now, in leaving Auckland and going north, we're actually heading up to an area called the Bay of Islands. Now, Zane Grey, the American author, used to spend a lot of time up here game fishing. He used to come up here and go game fishing and write novels, and it was such a pristine paradise. This Bay of Islands, this subtropical area, and you can head into the Waipura Forest. Waipura Forest is this area which is quite sacred to the local Maori. So taking a guided walk by local Maori will take you in, and the object of your walk is to go and see the biggest kauri tree in the forest, Tane Mata. Tanemata, and Tane means man, and it's by name, it's the god of the forest. They say this tree is between 1,250 years to 2,500 years old, so quite amazing. And then close by, you can head into Waitangi Treaty House. This treaty house is itself a marae. Now, a marae is a meeting house, and this is where that treaty I mentioned before, the Waitangi Treaty, was signed between the Pakeha is English and Scottish, and the Maori, and it was a treaty of coexistence. So coming in here, you'll get a respect for that treaty and the power it holds. You'll also get respect for the power of adventure. And here on this North Islands, up in the Bay of Islands, you can go on a hole in the rock cruise, that precarious hole there. That boat's going to go lunging through there. You can also go on a guided dolphin cruise, and maybe even possibly take a dip with the dolphins. Hop in the water and go for a swim. And if you really want some adventure, what about bus surfing? The Kiwis will do anything for a laugh. Put a bus in the water. Are you crazy? Yep, bus surfing up the 90-mile beach, taking you all the way up to Cape Reinga. Cape Reinga is the northernmost point on the North Island. And it's a great spot for some nice sunset photographs. It's from here, we're going to go now back to Auckland, and we're going to go south of Auckland. We're going to take on the Thermal Explorer Highway, an area of geothermal activity, underwater activity, underground activity. It's actually the Lord of the Rings road. So our maps somewhat changed now, and you can feel it, can't you? As we make our way down this mysterious region, we're heading into Waitomo. Now, while above the ground looks like the rolling hills of Ireland or Scotland, underground, we've got this incredible underworld journey. We're walking in the footsteps of hobbits, and in fact, you could be very much in the set of the movie Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's fabulous when you're here to experience this underground world, and you'll find stalactites and stalagmites. At one point, you'll hop on these little tin boats, and on underground streams you will follow. And above, it will look like the stars at night. There's actually glowworms that hang from the roof of the cave. And then if you want to have a barrel of fun, you can actually take a journey with some hobbits. Well, not exactly with hobbits. This is not exactly what I had in mind. But you will be underground, and you will be in the water. But you'll be in little wetsuits with rubber rings and little mining lamps on your head. And you'll go. And it's so much fun. As a family, it's very safe. And you'll bob under these caves. You'll have a guide with you. You'll see glowworms, and you'll see all sorts of underground activity. It's a lot of fun. From there, as any good hobbit, you must go home. And where do hobbits go? Back to Hobbiton. So what I love about Hobbiton is the meticulous detail that they have put in to creating what is essentially a film set. But the film set has now become a major attraction, and you can go in and check out these little hobbit homes and actually enter in a hobbit hole itself. And while you're standing here at the door looking out over that countryside, you will note that you will not see anything from this world. In other words, it makes you really feel like, wow, I feel like I could be actually in a movie set. And that just takes over. And so when you find yourself wandering now, coming out of your hobbit hole, walking across that lovely little bridge, down to the Green Dragon pub, you'll belly up to the bar for a pint of hobbit lager. And then after that, you might stick around for a lovely hobbit banquet. Now, This can be arranged through your travel advisor. I've got to tell you, it's very, very popular. Lunches and dinners are extremely sold out. So when you're organising this, talk to your travel advisor and we can lock in special seating arrangements to make sure you're looked after. Then we further push on to Rotorua, and we come face to face here in Rotorua with Maori culture. That's called the hongi. The rubbing of noses, that's called the hongi. That's a Maori greeting. And here in Rotorua is a lot of geothermal activity, a lot of boiling mud, and geysers that punch up into the sky. I mean, there's all this geothermal activity, and it's a reason for Maoris. There's quite a large Maori community here, and you can actually go into Tapuia, which is a little geothermal region, and into this marae. Now, the marae is a meeting house, and you'll actually get a chance to go and meet some of the local Maoris and see them at work doing their traditional Maori carving, and it's just I think it's important that you go get to experience the local culture and to meet the people and have a conversation. They're very polite, and one thing about this particular exercise is when we first arrive, what we're going to do is we're going to actually go and check out what we're going to have for lunch. And so what will happen is you'll get the lunch, you'll select raw fish, raw chicken, raw meat, raw vegetables, corn, raw. You think, wow, this doesn't look very appetizing. But what happens is while we're doing that little tour, we'll then come back at lunchtime and they will have cooked our food in little baskets. They'll lower it down into the earth, into the geysers, and it will be steamed. It will be a steam box lunch. So it was a traditional Maori lunch. And the traditional Maori experience continues as that evening you're taken out for a traditional Maori hangi dinner and show. Now, the greeting, of course, is a very important part. You just don't wander into a village. You've got to respectfully be welcomed. And this welcome you're seeing right now, the silver-footed leaf, which is a major New Zealand plant, and of course it's welcome. It's laid on the ground. It means you can enter, and of course you're entering, and you'll get a chance to see the inner workings of an actual Maori village, and you'll get a chance to enjoy the food. They have the hangi. Hangi is the earth oven where they cook the food on hot rocks, wrapped in cloth and layer with plants, and they bake it. And then of course while that's cooking, you're being entertained. So the women will do the poi dance, and they have the balls there that swing around like nunchuckers, and beautiful singing voices, of course. The men do a dance called the haka. Kumate, kara, kara. They jump out and poke out their tongues, and it's quite exhilarating. It's a lot of fun, and you can feel the passion. I mean, there's also they're entertaining, but at the same time too, it's coming from the heart. It's not like some tiki show. That's really serious stuff, and I enjoy that. I really do enjoy that. Another thing about New Zealand that you might not know is that before the Maoris arrived, before the English and Scottish arrived, that New Zealand didn't have any animals. I think they had one animal. It was a bat. That's all. Otherwise, it was all birds. New Zealand was nothing but birds. And New Zealand now has their favourite bird, their national symbol of pride, is the kiwi bird, a flightless, almost blind kiwi bird. I think of the regal bald eagle, and here we are, the kiwi bird. But the kiwi bird lays an egg 1/3 the size of its own body. Think about that for a second. That'll bring a tear to your eye, wouldn't it? You can have that job, that's for sure. But yes, so you get a chance to be down here and get a chance to see the kiwi bird. That's important. And there's incredible forest. And this here, I want to just show you how to speak, how to pronounce some of these Maori names. Now, the WH is pronounced as an F. And the F-A-R-A, that's just break it there, that's Whara. And then you've got Rewa. So Whara, Rewa. You've got that? Whara, Rewa. Easy, eh? Yes, well, so once you get into Whara, Rewa Forest, you can then go mountain biking. Now, mountain biking here, it's like they've got black runs, they've got blue runs, they've got green runs. Something for everybody if you want to get out. Now, here's something they've invented too. They invented the Zorb. Ever heard of a Zorb? You're like a hamster. It's like this big ball of air, and basically you slip inside there, and you basically run down this hill, and you run. It's a lot of fun if you want to give it a go. Whitewater rafting, some of the best whitewater rafting in the world is found through here. All different grades of rafting experience can be available. It's a great way to see the forest, or you might want to tackle the forest by going through a zip line canopy tour. And these are enchanting forests. They're just dripping with ferns and mosses, and it's just beautiful. And the birds you'll see through here are just phenomenal. And at the end of this day, you kind of find yourself coming up the Skyline restaurant for beautiful views over Lake Rotorua. But it doesn't finish there. A way to wound before you hit the sack, perhaps a little visit to the Polynesian Spa. This is one of the oldest tourism attractions in the world. In terms of that, back in the 1800s, people were kind of going out for 6 months on a leaky boat to come out here just to bathe here, and you can do that on your trip. Now, going from there, you can head then to Lake Taupo. And going south, and you'll find Lake Taupo you'll find that the largest lake is this extinct volcano, and you can head out with Chris Jolly. You can go out and cruise and go fishing for trout and go and check out some of the wonderful Maori carvings. And there's a wonderful waterfall, the Hooker Falls. It's a powerful waterfall that you can jet boat up to as well. Now we take the Pacific Coast Highway, which is the coastal route going from Auckland, going through the Coromandel and down around to Hawke's Bay. The Coromandel is where a lot of Kiwis, New Zealanders, go on vacation. So this is where they'll have their batches, which are like a holiday house. It's called a batch or a bachelor's pad. So just here, beautiful beachside areas. You can go to Cathedral Cove and go for hikes along the beach. You can go kayaking through this region as well. There's lots of hiking you can do in here. I mean, it's just sublime. At the end of the day, you might kind of find this beach to visit, though. What about heading to Hotwater Beach? At Hotwater Beach, you'll always find a shovel. You'll grab a shovel. They're there to share. You'll dig a hole in the sand, and hot water will permeate up through the sand, creating your own little spa bath. So there you are, sitting in your spa bath, having a little soak. But every so often, you'll kind of jump up and go for a swim in the ocean, bristling cold, salty seawater, and you'll come back to your little freshwater, little spa. Don't you like that? Going from there, you'll head then to the Bay of Plenty. Now, the Bay of Plenty, as the name suggests, has plenty of activities. It's all about ocean and surfing and hiking. There's some great hikes. You can do a hike into Omamata Falls, and this hike here is just spectacular. It's a nice reward is to go for a bit of a dip at the end. Going further south, you'll get to Hawke's Bay, an incredible coastline. In fact, part of that coastline is where you'll find Cape Kidnappers Golf Course. Now, this golf course, it rivals Pebble Beach in terms of its beauty and its just iconic prominence on the edge of this cliff. And, it really does put the pressure on the golfer, but I got to say, it's quite the feat to play it. And to stay out here at the farm at Cape Kidnappers is just divine, a gorgeous luxury lodge. You're surrounded by the oldest winemaking region in New Zealand. This is the whole area in and around Napier. And Napier itself, the township of Napier, is the most Art Deco town in the world. In fact, they say that this town, back in the 30s, when they really reconstructed the whole thing, it was just it was just nothing but Art Deco. So when you're here, you get a feel for that. In fact, you can come here in February. They'll celebrate the Art Deco weekends, all dressed up, all the music, everything's from that whole period of time, cars, the whole works. Now, speaking of going to the whole works, you'll get the whole works of gannet. Now, the gannet is a bird that migrates between Australia and New Zealand, and the largest colony of gannet are found right here. In this region also, you can get out and do some great cycling. There's some wonderful trails available. You can head out and do some tasting of wine. You can hop on a bike and just rent a little bike and do a little wine tasting. Be very careful how many you have, though, but a little sip here and there puts a bit of a smile on your face, and it's not bad fun. And, of course, for those that are serious about wine, they have what we call the classic New Zealand wine trail, which starts at Napier and makes its way down through to Wellington, the capital, and then you can cross over into Picton, and then you can go into this area called the Marlborough region, which is also a prominent region for Sauvignon Blanc. Now, the Western North Island region, which takes you around the city of New Plymouth. I mean, this area here is quite impressive. And New Plymouth, the backdrop to New Plymouth, this little township, it's very much the market garden for Wellington. So Mount Taranaki, of course, is an extinct volcano that you'll see here. And this whole region here is rich, fertile soil, and it rolls down to these beautiful beaches, and it's a surface paradise through here. And there's places like Whanganui and Manawatu. These regions here, as you can see, are these rich colours of green. They provide quite the draw. And there's these little rivers that meander through. You've got the Whanganui River. and a Mananatu River. You can basically go through here, and you're best explored by kayak or by riverboat, and perhaps getting out and doing a little bit of hiking as well. So it's a great place to explore. Now, Wellington and the Wairarapa region Wellington is the capital, of course, the population of 350,000 people, and that little trolley car will take you through lofty views out over this lovely naturally deep harbour. One thing you should incorporate into your itinerary is going to be Te Papa Museum. Te Papa Museum is a national museum. It's got one of the largest collectives of curated Maori art and artefacts, and you'll find here also a lovely interactive exhibit that will give you some great insights into New Zealand. And that's a great shot there. You see the mountain range going down the back of the western side of the South Island. That's a great Southern Alps. You'll also get a chance to see some of the actual various exhibits. Like, for example, right now there's Gallipoli, the scale of our war. First World War, the Anzac, Australia and New Zealand Army Corps were caught up in a war in Turkey. And this display here is magnified. These figures are 10 times the normal size of a human being, and the emotion is magnified tenfold as well. Quite impacting to read their stories. And you'll also get a chance to touch on Parliament, and you'll see some of the architecture. This lovely old St. Paul's Cathedral built entirely with timber, just amazing. There's some great cafes and outdoor restaurants, and you can head out and explore, and places like Cuba Street to meander down and sit al fresco dine. I would highly recommend that you do a guided tour. Go out with Zest Food Tours, and they will actually make sure that you get a chance to experience New Zealand's great food, but also get your bearings and know where things are at. So when you've got a few extra days, you can go back and try that restaurant you walked past and were wondering what it was like. They also have great events. Back in March and February, they were basically having this wonderful Wellington on a plate, quite the event. And there's also the Weta Workshop, which is Peter Jackson's art team. These are the guys that do all the work, on his movie sets, and yeah, quite phenomenal to go and check that out. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you'll be happy to that. Now, Wharekauhau Lodge is a lovely luxury lodge, and it's actually owned by the owner of the Golden Knights, who owns the Golden Knights ice hockey team here. So it's American owned, but this is a great lodge, and the chef here prepares food from the surrounding areas. And of course the wine, well, that's coming from Martinborough region. And so in this region here, they have a great event called the Toast of Martinborough, which is in November. Then crossing over to Nelson, the Tasman National Park and Marlborough, you'll hop on this Inter-Islander ferry. The Inter-Islander ferry will take you from Wellington to Picton. And the actual little town of Picton is quite a quaint little town. And of course, it's from here that you'll disembark and move on. You'll head through the Marlborough region and savour some fabulous Sauvignon Blanc. And the lovely thing here is that the winemakers believe life is just too short to make bad wine. So you'll get a chance to have a great little wine tasting. And the nice thing is the pairing of good wine. I mean, Sauvignon Blanc pairs so well with locally caught green-lipped mussels. And so you can head out on a cruise and savour them both together. It is a wonderful experience. And if you really want to celebrate the produce that comes from this region, then you need to take the opportunity to be here for their Food and Wine Festival, which happens in March. So, and February, it starts February and goes through to March, and it's something to behold. And I'm going to say, if you're interested in balancing that with a bit of outdoor activity, then you can head out and tackle the Queen Charlotte track. It's a great hiking track which will take you through some seemingly impenetrable rainforest, but a good guide will take you through just dripping with mosses, and it's just gorgeous. You'll come up and surface at a little town called Nelson, which is this lovely little artist enclave. They've got all these little local arts and crafts, but the real purpose here is to use this as a base to head out and explore the Abel Tasman National Park. I mean, you can take a lovely cruise through here and then get off that cruise. And for those that want to walk back, so depending on the level of fitness, they can arrange a whole array of activity. If you're at the fit level, well, you might want to do a little kayaking, because there's some beautiful little bays and harbours and some great opportunities to explore. Going further south now, we're heading into the Canterbury Plains, which is where you'll find Christchurch, and heading across to the west coast. Christchurch itself, it sits on the plains of the Canterbury Plains, and you've got the backdrop. That's the great Southern Alps you saw before, seemingly impenetrable barrier. But Christchurch itself is probably the most English city outside of England. There's a lovely series of botanic garden settings. You've got a little river that you meanders through. It's called the Avon River, and you can go punting on the Avon River, quite nice. And there's also this quaint little trolley car or tram car that totters around the city centre. And this little tram car will kind of link you up with a number of spots. At the same time, in the evening, they put on a fabulous dining experience too. Now, the heart of the city itself was once devastated by a nasty earthquake. Well, these resourceful Kiwis have come back in strength and have built this lovely urban chic shopping centre. So you can go and test that out and maybe go and do a local farmers market on a Sunday morning. Get up early, get a cup of coffee, wander through, chat with the locals. The lovely thing about Christchurch, it makes a nice base for a triangle of activity. They call it the Alpine Triangle. And the Alpine Triangle will link together Hamner Springs, and Hamner Springs is a great spot for spa balms and mud packs, and so all that sort of fun care stuff. And then you might want to kind of add in there, perhaps going and checking out some of the wine regions. So you can go do a wine tasting in the Waipara Valley. The Waipara Valley is also all within a drive, nothing's too far away. And then you can also incorporate the beautiful coastline around Kaikoura. And Kaikoura finishes and completes that triangle, and it's here that you'll go out and explore and do some whale watching tours and also keep your eye open for these wonderful New Zealand fur seals. The little pups, they behave like little puppy dogs, and they'll throw seaweed at you. They're cute as. And on the waterfront here, this is where you want to add into that mix seafood. You get a chance to try some locally caught seafood. In fact, this seafood here is coming from a little place called Nin's Bins. Nin's Bins is like a little van, and it's set up right on the coast. Now, the guy who runs this, he actually gets up in the morning and he goes for a dive. And you've got a few other people that do the same thing. And the freshly caught seafood is brought in. He cooks it up, and it just doesn't taste any better than that. And to see this country, to get around, I mean, I mentioned earlier that the idea of rail journeys is a lot of fun. Well, here the Transalpine train will take them on some fabulous journeys up over the Great Southern Alps. And the interior of the train is really delightfully laid out, big panoramic windows, and you can sit back in luxury and just take in the vista. It is one of the top 10 rail journeys in the world. And you'll stop. There's a couple of spots you can get off. You can get off at a place called Arthur's Pass, and you can continue on from there. Or you can go from there all the way through to Greymouth. Now, Greymouth takes you right out to the Grey River, which is where that kind of filters out into the ocean. And then from here, you want to hit the road. You can take some great drives along here. The West Coast, the rugged West Coast, is a bit like the Big Sur Drive in California. It's a gorgeous piece of coastline. You can head out and check out Punakaki. And look out for the pancake rocks, like these big stack of pancakes. It's just fabulous. In this region too, on the West Coast, you want to hop on a scenic helicopter flight and get a chance to go and visit some of the amazing glaciers. You've got Franz Josef Glacier, you've got Fox Glacier. And for those that want to go hiking in there, we can organise that too. Then you've got Hokitika, these little villages, and there's lots of little villages, but Hokitika is one to point out because it's here that they mine and search for greenstone or jade. And so you'll have a chance here to actually get some handcrafted. There's a little artist enclave there. They handcraft jade. And the scenery through Mount Cook National Park is just sublime. That's Lupin. It's in spring there. That's Lake Tekapo, and that's Araki. Araki is also referred to as the Cloud Piercer or Mount Cook. And so Edmund Hillary used to spend a lot of time here. Before he climbed Mount Everest, this was his little playground. So let's kind of leave this region now and go further south into that southeastern corner and check out the pure southern land, which takes us from Dunedin all the way around to Stewart Island. Now, Dunedin itself is the most Scottish town outside of Scotland, and it's this collision of a lot of Scottish farmers came here to farm sheep, and of course there was a lot of seafaring here as well, Scottish seafaring, a lot of fishing, and they've got the town itself is just littered with Georgian and Victorian architecture, the railway station, the actual St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, it's just phenomenal, and of course there's also a geological playground on its doorstep. You'll find these incredible clay cliffs. You'll find the amazing elephant rocks. You can't really see. They're phenomenal. The size is amazing. And you'll find the Moriaki boulders. Now, these boulders are kind of interesting because one's got quite the appetite for guests as well. It's kind of a fun little photograph you can take when you're there. And the whole coastal region through here, some of it is truly untouched and truly amazing areas to go hiking and exploring. this unspoilt coastline will take you all the way around a little town called Invercargill. And Anthony Hopkins was the actor in a movie called The World's Fastest Indian. I don't know if you saw that movie, but it's a classic movie. Get it out now. You've got time to watch all the movies you like. The World's Fastest Indian, Anthony Hopkins. It's a delightful insight into to what Kiwis are all about. It just really does give you an insight into New Zealanders. Just easy going. He took an Indian motorcycle and turned it into the fastest vehicle, and it's amazing. Invercargill also puts you close to the tastiest oysters in the world. You've got the Bluff oysters, and puts you in a position to head across to Stewart Island. And at Stewart Island, you'll get close to some great wildlife experiences, because over at Stewart Island, there's some of the islands that dot around Stewart Island, like Ulva Island. You'll find the bird life here is just quite prolific, and you'll get a chance to wander out and see kiwi birds in the wild. Then finishing up, we head down to the southern lakes, the central Otago, where we'll take you from Lake Wanaka all the way through Queenstown and out to the Fiordland National Park. Lake Wanaka is where a lot of Kiwis go on vacation. In winter, they're skiing. In summer, autumn and fall, they're actually looking at doing a lot more hiking and getting out kayaking and just exploring. They want to get out into these national parks like Mount Aspiring National Park, and the air is so pristine and pure. At the same time, it is also in the central Otago region a great area for some lovely soft reds, some Pinots and some Cabernets, and you can tackle that by bike as well if you wish. Some great trails through this region. And of course, the highlight for this region is without doubt Queenstown. Looking at Queenstown, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It sits on the banks of Lake Wakatipu. You've got the remarkable ranges as its backdrop, and it's really the centre of adventure for New Zealand. You can go whitewater rafting here. You can go out and go jet boating if you wish. I mean, Kiwis invented this boat, the jet boat. Yeah, a farmer by the name of Hamilton. You can go bungee jumping. That was invented by a Kiwi as well, putting a rubber band around your ankles and jumping off a perfectly good bridge. Seems strange, but it's a lot of fun. And you can finish those three activities off with a fourth one being the heli flight over the remarkable ranges. If you do all four, it's called the Awesome Foursome. And you'll probably sleep that night standing up with your eyes like saucers. Great fun. And then getting out on the lake itself, hopping on the T.S. Earnslaw, the oldest paddle steamer in New Zealand, taking you out to this wonderful station called Walter Peak. It's actually a sheep station where you'll get a chance to see them working the sheep with the sheep dogs, and they'll do some sheep shearing, and then they'll prepare a lovely Kiwi barbecue lunch. And that, of course, will include lamb for those that wish. But, yeah, it's nice fun. As far as food's concerned, Queenstown's got some great shops and some great restaurants and also some real friendly pubs. And there's always a real vibe. Queenstown just says it. When you're here, there's a real heightened expectation of some truly amazing experiences. And speaking of heightened expectations, I figure that when you're putting together an itinerary, when you're planning your vacation with your travel advisor, isn't it kind of nice at one point just to kind of tick your accommodation level up a notch? Check out this. This is Matakari Lodge. It's 5 minutes out of town, and it sits with beautiful views over Lake Wakatipu and the remarkable range. And every room in the house has got these fantastic views. So when you're putting together and customizing your vacation and you're having a chat to your travel advisor, have a think about the fact that at one point in your itinerary, I wouldn't mind just turning it up a notch and just having something which will be truly an amazing, memorable experience. The final memorable experience, of course, with a day when you head on a journey, you'll be passing beautiful scenes like you see here, Mirror Lake. You could turn that picture upside down. You'll be in the hands of a local guide who will look after any traffic jams that might ensue on way, and you'll be able to get out at lookout points. You'll be able to take some great photographs. You'll be taking in the scenery. It's sublime. You'll get to a point where you can go no further as you wait for the light to turn green. And while you're waiting at Homer Tunnel for this light to turn green, you meet up with a kia. It's a mountain parrot, a very smart bird, cheeky but smart. Now, the kia has actually developed quite a fetish for rubber. They'll pull the rubber off your windscreen wipers, off your door jambs. They'll jack up your car and knock off your tyres. Okay, I'm lying about that bit. But they are a cheeky bird. You've got to push them off your vehicle. And then when you go through that tunnel, when the light turns green and you start making your way through that tunnel, the driver will have some music playing. and it will be like chariots of fire, and it will build up as it builds up to a crescendo. Eventually, as you make your way to the very end of the lights, as you make your way, you'll burst through the other side. The music will come to a close, and you will look out, and you'll see the fabulous Fiordland National Park, carved by glaciers. You'll make your way down to Milford Sound. You're looking here at Mitre Peak. That's that tall peak you're seeing there. And Mitre Peak, and here you'll hop on these little red charter boats. These little red charter boats will take off, and it'll be like cruising out on a sheet of glass. You'll be chased by wild dolphins and guiding you to these fabulous waterfalls that fall from such a great height. It's like a giant Evian spray. Now, the big tip here, as your travel advisors will recommend, is when you come back from here, is perhaps to think about taking a flight back. Now, there's two reasons why I'll suggest this. One, it's the scenery. You've just made that arduous journey through mountains. You've gone through tunnels, and you've gone over these mountains. And so it's quite the journey. It's about 4 hours. Coming back, take the plane, and then you'll get to see this fabulous scenery. You'll get to see what you've travelled over. You'll have an appreciation of where you've been, an appreciation of what it took to put that road in. And you'll get back, point number 2, is you'll get back to Queenstown earlier. And you might be back like 5:30, which means you'll have time to go to all those great restaurants and bars. And of course, we have got a list of great restaurants and bars, all the latest place to be, not just in Queenstown, but right throughout New Zealand. You talk to your travel advisor and they'll make sure you're hooked up. Because when you get back into Queenstown, you want to be heading out. You want to have reservations to the best places. You want to hop on that gondola and go up to Bob's Peak for fabulous views out over Lake Wakatipu, sitting there at the Skyline restaurant, raising a glass, saying, New Zealand, we did it. Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, and I would ask if you've got any interest right now for questions, please just type the questions on the actual right-hand side there. I'm going to open it up to questions, and I'm going to try and answer as many as I can. For those that I can't, I'll be directing you back to your travel advisors, and they will of course assist you. But I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Let me know if you had, but I want to make sure that we're on the right track. And it's kind of exciting. I've got to say, New Zealand, it's one of those places that it really does deliver beyond expectation. So what's the temperature during the months of March and April? So March and April is really considered the fall period. And so in fall, March, summer, it's kind of catching the ends of summer. So temperature-wise, depending where you're at, because of course at the southern part of the island is a little cooler, and the northern part, as I mentioned, up in the Bay of Islands, is a subtropical area. So temperature-wise, you're looking at probably being 60s to 70s around that time, and that's being very broad, but I mean, it gives you an idea. I mean, the winter period, which is June, July, August, is more of a winter, and that will be a cooler. Again, it's not too hard and arduous. It's obviously 50s is kind of the average median temperature, but it can get a little cooler, a little chillier. Of course, there's snow. Do you realise that when the snow melts up in Utah, the US ski team, they'll head down to New Zealand, because that's where the best skiing is in the Southern Hemisphere. And same up in Canada there. In fact, there's quite a relationship between the skiing of New Zealand and the skiing of both Canada and the US. A lot of Kiwis come up and work in the ski fields, and then a lot of Americans will go down and work in the ski. So it's a nice little relationship there. Can you stay in Milford Sound? Yes, you can stay there. Absolutely. You can stay on a vessel. You can actually go and stay on the water. Now, what is delightful about staying in places? Well, sunset and sunrise. So if you're going to go and visit something on a day trip, you're arriving probably mid-morning because you've got up early to leave to get there. You're arriving mid-morning, and then you're leaving mid-afternoon to come back. So what are you missing? You're missing sunset and sunrise. When are the birds the most active? When is the sky when is it the prettiest? So you've got to think about those things. And then when you're talking, it all comes down to time. But if those things are important to you, we can organise it. Of course, there's other means of travel too. You can always get a camper van. You call them RVs, we call them camper vans, and you can get yourself an RV and you can go and travel around, and that can put you right where it's happening, so you can wake up to see that fabulous scenery. So yes, depending on what you need to do, we can customise it. The thing you've got to do now is actually create a little checklist, a bit of a wish list, a bucket list, you might say, a bucket list for New Zealand. We can pull all those elements together. As far as wheelchair accessibility, yes, there are areas that are wheelchair accessible, and we can again help and guide you on that. We've got great operators down there that can look after you and make sure that everything comes together. Expense. Well, is it expensive there? Well, here's some good news for you. The US dollar is pound for pound so strong, it's nuts. I mean, your money's going to go such a long way. I mean, it's about 55, 60 cents or something to the 60 cents US to the New Zealand dollar. And it'll go a long way. The other thing you've got to think about too, there's no tipping. When you go and sit down to a meal, when I say there's no tipping, you can tip, but it's not regimented to 18 or 20%. You can just leave a group of 10 of you having a great time could leave $10 for the waiter and say, hey, that was great, you were pretty good, $10, thank you very much. And he will be, or she will be, as happy as Larry. So, yeah, that's something to bring in mind. Can you actually lodge in Hobbiton? No, you can't. You can't actually stay in Hobbiton. Unfortunately, I'd love to do it. I think it'd be great fun. I was hoping they could too. Funny thing there, I never was that interested in Hobbit. I never watched the movies, The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I never saw any of them. And then I had to go because of my job. So I went and checked it out. I was so fascinated that when I got home from my trip to New Zealand, I trapped my wife in the living room and we watched the trilogy of The Hobbit and the trilogy of The Lord of the Rings in one weekend. Yes, I'm a big fan now. I've got to tell you, I tell anybody going down there, they've got to do it. They've just got to do it. Yeah, New Zealand definitely is number one, and I really hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I haven't had time to kind of answer every question, but we'll follow you up. Don't you worry. I've got a team of travel advisors that have brought this all together, and they're keen to hear from you. And of course, we're keen to make sure that you're ready to take on other journeys we've got planned. And in fact, you may have received an invitation like you see here from your travel advisor with their name and their agency down the bottom. You'll be seeing more of these. So if you're planning on going to the South Pacific, now I should point out too, if you wanted to go and drop into Tahiti, Fiji, Cook Islands on the way back from New Zealand, why not? And if you're interested in any of those, next Thursday we're doing Tahiti and Fiji. So please come and join us. We'd love to see you. And then in the second half of the month, we're breaking away and we're going to South Africa and Kenya. We're going to take you on some great adventures, some great safari experiences. We're going to teach you exactly how it is to create and customize a great safari experience. So if you've got any interest in doing safaris, or even if you hadn't thought about it before, but you think, well, I wouldn't mind checking it out, please just register and we will make sure that you are well looked after. Yes, your travel advisors are here to do just that. They believe that the fun is in the planning, so you call your travel advisor and they'll bring it all together. They're promoting this whole exercise, and of course, they helped promote the first presentation we did. That was Australia Virtual Vacation back on Thursday, April the 23rd. And we've got a little bit of a draw here we've done, and we had some prizes to give out. And I just want to quickly read out the travel advisor and their client that actually won the prize. Carolyn Horn, your client, Linda Curtis, has won a lovely beach towel and a Starbucks gift card. In fact, everybody's getting Starbucks gift cards, and we're giving away these lovely beach towels, Australian beach towels. Patty Mills Roy, your client, Susan Dukes, has won a prize. Rona Lacey, your client, Melissa Clary, has won a prize. Lisa Rossmelly, I've got that wrong, Lisa. I'm so sorry. My block nose is not working for me here. Emily, though, it's working there. Emily Perry. I hope I've got that right. And then Sue Barth, Bev Leonard, Tammy Lindsay, lovely Tammy Lindsay, a great travel advisor. Jim Plummer, Connie Normand, your client Dana Hughes, and then Jacinta Pereira, Gail McGovern. So they're the winners. Congratulations to those people, and thank you very much for those that attended Australia. Incidentally, if you want to hear the recording of that presentation or watch the recording of that presentation, just ask your travel advisor and they will send you the recording. And if you want to watch that New Zealand recording again with other family members or friends, you just want to watch it yourself with a glass of wine instead of a cup of coffee, by all means, talk to your travel advisor and they will send you the link and you can watch it in your own good time. So, guys, thank you very much for attending today. I hope you can join us next Thursday, May the 14th. We're going to tackle the difference between Polynesia and Melanesia. We're going to bring Tahiti and Fiji together, and we're going to see what these virtual vacations will promise us. Then we're following it up with South Africa on the 21st, and then Kenya on the 28th. I hope you've enjoyed this virtual vacation to New Zealand. Remember, the fun is in the planning, so call a travel advisor and let the fun begin. I wish you all the very best. I thank you for your time and look, seriously, stay together, stay healthy, and do the right thing. We'll get out of this, guys. And now's the time to be dreaming. Now's the time to be planning. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So by putting thought in now, that will make you ready. So as soon as the hammer drops, as soon as things come good, you'll be the first cab off the rank. And I've got to tell you, I reckon there's going to be some specials out there. So you want to be keeping close to your travel advisor because they'll have those specials right at hand. Here's cheers. All the best to everybody. And look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Thank you, guys. Bye for now. Kia ora.